Welcome to One Tired Teacher, episode 146, 3 easy tips for STEM planning for the elementary classroom. So last week, we talked about some strategic steps in order to plan across the year, STEM planning across the year. Today, I wanted to break it down a little bit and give you 3 tips to make it easier and faster, an easier and faster process. I hope you stick around.
Welcome to One Tired Teacher. And even though she may need a nap, this teacher is ready to wake up and speak her truth about the trials and treasures of teaching. Here she is, wide awake. Wait, she's not asleep right now, is she? She is awake, right? Okay. From Trina Devery Teaching and Learning, your host, Trina Devery.
Hey, so last week, like I said, we talked about some strategic steps. So hopefully that gave you an idea of what it might look like. That was episode 145. You can check that out at the link in the show notes. And so today we're going to talk some more about STEM planning because planning STEM units takes a lot. And even if you have all the strategic steps, such as laying out your standards for science, engineering, and informational text, integrating the ELA portion into your reading block to buy you back lots of time so that you can get to the hands-on activities, maybe even you've printed out your free pacing guide, which I will also link to in the show notes, and you've started to wrap your head around true integration of math and technology. You may still feel a bit overwhelmed. And that's okay because, when we first learn things, or even when we've been doing it for a while, there's stuff that comes up and it makes it really hard. And teaching right now is hard. That's okay if it feels overwhelming. It's all right for you to give yourself some grace and for you to know that it can be difficult, and it's nothing that you're doing wrong. It's just that there are times in our careers that are harder than others. All right, so that leads the way to 3 easy tips to help make this go faster and easier. So tip number 1, batch your planning time. Now, that means that you're going to set a specific amount of time to only plan for your STEM units. So you're going to avoid going back and forth between subjects. Because STEM units integrate, you won't need to create multiple lesson plans. You can simply copy and paste if they're needed in another subject, such as your reading block and even possibly your math block. The point is, allow your brain to focus on this one task and knock it out. You hear a lot about batching in business where people are talking about, doing all of your podcast episodes at one time or writing all your emails or whatever. I think this is so helpful for teachers as well. I know for me, jumping back and forth between tasks, it took a lot of brain space and energy that I didn't realize I needed and that I was losing. And since I have ADD, I didn't realize it for a lot of my life. I didn't understand how much time it was taking when I would get interrupted from a task, or when I had to my brain was working in this one way and then all of a sudden I flipped to something else and it would have to catch up and start working in that way. So that's what I mean when I say batch it. Pick an amount of time, and you might even set a timer. You might say, I'm only going to give this an hour. I'm going to start the timer and I'm going to end the timer, and I'm going to stick to it because I've told myself this is the time that I have to give it and this is what I'm going to give it. So I'm going to spend this whole entire hour working through STEM planning so that I'm not all over the place. So that's tip number 1. All right. Tip number 2, keep the big picture in mind. You're going to want to start with a big idea plan and then give yourself another block of time to kind of narrow it down to units, and then to weekly plans, and then to daily plans. So that doesn't mean you're working on all of it at one time. This means that you're working towards something and you're not all over the place, which can easily happen. And if this is already growing confusing, definitely want you to go download my free pacing guide, because this will help you understand this process and it will give you something to work off of. And sometimes we just need a little bit of assistance in understanding what that can look like. When we're looking at a big plan, we don't have to get to the nitty gritty. We don't have to get overwhelmed by the nitty gritty. And so once we've got the big ideas figured out and kind of pushed into blocks of time as far as like quarters, then we can start breaking down what it might look like as far as a unit or as far as a month. And then we narrow down. It just makes it a little bit easier for us to not get so overwhelmed by all the details. All right. And then tip number 3, put away all the guides and the resources and the confusion, and save yourself a massive amount of time and energy by hopping on over to my shop on TPT and purchasing my STEM units for 2nd grade. They are done for you. I have planned out the big idea, covering all the next generation science standards for 2nd grade. And I've covered the informational text standards from the Common Core, and I've broken them down into quarters and units and months and weeks and daily plans. I've included the student handouts, and I've even given you some original nonfiction text to help students learn about science topics. This also gives you just what you need during your reading workshop. Now you can breathe a sigh of relief and teach STEM. That's okay. It's okay to just give yourself a little investment and have the work, that part done for you, so that you can do the fun part, which is teaching it. And I enjoy creating the content and writing and researching and spending time doing that. But it was difficult for me when I was also teaching my class. I used to get so frustrated with these lesson plan expectations. I'm like, you want these elaborate lesson plans, which I like writing. However, I want to create the content that goes with it. I got to gather all the materials. I got to make all the copies. I actually have to teach the students. Then I have to figure out what I'm going to grade. And the list goes on. And I don't have that. Like, I have the time to be able to do that so that you can do what you do best, which is the teaching part. So give yourself a little break, and it's okay if you have to do that. Now, if you don't want the units, I totally get it. So I'll throw in a final tip. Work with a partner or a team to write comprehensive units that you can use again and again. This will help cut down on the overload. Now, if this is an idea that works for you, then you definitely want to do it. And maybe you agree to put aside, 30 minutes after school and you work on it. And, you work as a team and you get it done. For me, that was difficult. I had a hard time working with a team of people. I love to get their ideas and their input, but I felt like we never got anything done. And it felt like a forced effort from admin, and I felt resentful. So if that's you, then give your best ideas while you're there, and then give yourself a block of time when you're not there. And that's okay too. All right. I hope you feel excited to teach STEM this year. And I know how valuable this interdisciplinary approach is to our kids and their futures, but don't get overwhelmed. There is help out there. Just reach out and ask. This one tired teacher is hoping to finally get my voice back. Until next time, sweet dreams and sleep tight.